Hi, this is Dr. Corinne Wickens, and this is our third and final tool for pre-reading and or anticipatory activities, anticipation and prediction guides. So as we have discussed in other videos about anticipatory activities, piquing interest is really, really important. So piquing interest and raising expectations about the meaning of text or lesson, because movement is the primary modality in physical education, create a context. And the context is really important to try to encourage an engagement and motivation in which students will read or learn within purpose and anticipation. So we begin with anticipation guides. And the purpose of them is to stimulate students' interest in a topic and set a purpose for reading. Similarly is to connect new information to prior knowledge and build curiosity about a new topic. So the format is usually pretty straightforward. There's a series of statements and students can agree or disagree. And it might be true or false or some other variation to that degree. And in this example, and we actually have a continuum. And I want you to think about like a Likert scale that has strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. And so the continuum, because these are statements that you might not just, it's like where you fall on the continuum may vary. So for instance, in number 4, revenge is the only way to gain true justice. Or moral courage is more difficult to accomplish than physical courage. So then, and when you think about this, I often have students, I like to do anticipation guides with either, 2, agree or disagree, or maybe in the idea of 4 corners. So if you strongly disagree, go here. If you strongly agree, go there. Agree, that kind of thing. And so then when I do a content area anticipation guide at the beginning of the semester, I have students then just agree or disagree, and they are going back and forth. So imagine in a gym setting is then students could be running to, or they could skip or gallop, and then you choose different kind of movements in between each one. And this example comes from a health physical education unit dealing with what is the nature of being healthy, active health. So in this case, it's not true or false, agree or disagree, but likely and unlikely. So how likely do you think this one statement to be true or not? For instance, again, fourth one, I think it's fourth one down, to be healthy, you only need to do aerobic activities. How likely is that to be true or not? Or taking the dog for a walk is considered moderate physical activity. Well, depends. Most students might say it depends on the dog, but that's the idea, is how likely or unlikely. But part of what you get is the discussion that comes after. So if you wanted to act technology, here is one basic tool, is pretty common, is Poll Everywhere. And then you can have students then input, instead of just using a basic form, is then creating a Poll Everywhere or similar tool that has agree, disagree, likely, unlikely, with a series of questions. And then the students have to then respond. And so then you get a sense of the overarching picture of the class pretty quickly. So this would be great application of digital tools with a very common content literacy tool. And then finally, we have, but the class discussion that happens with anticipation guide is really, really powerful and really, really important, because anticipation guides are meant to invoke opinion. And what's the point of having opinion unless you're going to discuss it? So then it's that ownership of opinion and hearing multiple perspectives that really makes anticipation guides really powerful. Unlike prediction guides, which is why I wanted to differentiate between the language of prediction guides and anticipation guides. Because anticipation guides, the language and writing the sentences are meant to be more open-ended, more ambiguity, to allow for difference of opinion. But prediction guides are meant to predict, so that students then are looking at factual information, but that may or may not be true. They may not yet know. So prediction guides are tended to teach students to make predictions. To anticipate the text, yes, but the primary purpose is to predict and then to verify those predictions. And so in the same way, they are going to activate the students' background knowledge and hopefully generate some questions. But the difference, one of the other key differences is the assumption that students know the correct answers yet. There isn't, so that, and as a result of that, students work independently on the prediction guide and they make their best guess. And while discussion is really powerful and important in anticipation guides, I'm less likely to do so within a prediction guide for two reasons. One is I don't want to assume that students know or don't know the correct answer. And I don't want to embarrass students if the wrong answer is wrong, because they don't know what they don't know yet. But two, I don't want to reinforce misconceptions either. So if we were talking, and then that can be that wrong information, inaccurate information could be reinforced. So here is a simple prediction guide, but that has a confirmation. That means it has a pre-component and a post component. So in this case, we have 4 statements that relates to a science unit on matter and atoms. And the me is the anticipatory. That's the pre-reading tool. So where you just simply would be checking off of the lines. Then after the lesson, then students will go back and then confirm and verify from the text or the lesson, the video, the demonstration, what was true and confirmed. And so here is a geometry. And so we have the pre here before, and then similarly is the pre and the post afterwards. And again, note that we have symbolic equations, which is important in mathematics. Now, I want you to kind of, we're both called anticipation guides. So I'm not going to say at the moment, is the first one dealing with Latin America in the United States. Statements, the US should support a dictator if doing so keeps a country from turning communist. The United States should use trade embargoes to force change in countries with poor human rights policies. Now we have to have a lot of background knowledge with this one. So when it mentions the reaction guide, reaction is the response after the reading. Is this more open-ended and allows for opinion, and so anticipation? Or is this more factual based and then a prediction? Similarly, here we have World War II anticipation guide about the Blitz. And we have serious statements. The term Blitz comes from the word Blitzkrieg, which means our war. Gas masks were comfortable to wear. So again, are these statements meant to create discussion and differing opinions, or are they more predictive and students are going to confirm and disconfirm? And the one thing I would last note is then we have a place for writing. So then students would be able to demonstrate their evidence in the text or the lesson, that video, of what, to demonstrate that it was true or not, confirmed and verified or not. So next you get to practice.